move over so I can get somewhere in front of this microphone.
Just commercial.
For purposes of introducing this tape, this is a visit we're having this afternoon on, what's the day? 6th of November 1965 with Mr. Edwin Link to hear some of the background about the Link Piano Factory. And we have with us Murray Clark of Woodstock, New Hampshire, and Chichester, New Hampshire, Jim Calbaugh of Vestal, New York, and David Bowers of Vestal, New York. So much for the introduction. Now what do we talk about?
Well, he's got piano literature in his hand, Mr. Link has. We might as well discuss that.
There's some of the original.
Yes.
Have you seen? I gave Harvey.
Yes,
I've got quite a pretty near a full set of it.
Why did they make so many of these, so few of these, with art glass? Most of these were plain glass.
I don't know. It was a case of customer's desire, of whichever way they wanted it. And of course they came in three styles, just a plain piano with a xylophone and then the drum combination. Then the bigger ones, the bigger pianos, had two ranks of pipes and drums and various combinations on that too.
Which?
I think I got,
Yes, you loaned me some of that material.
Some of that, yeah.
I put in my book earlier.
Yeah.
Which evidently sold for $1,750.
That would be a big one.
That was the big one, the Model
Yes.
A, yeah.
Yes.
These sold, I think, for $875 or something.
Oh, is that
like
so?
Yeah. Or $800. I think it was just about $800.
Now, is that...
At one time, later. Originally, though, I remember when they sold for around $400, these same ones.
Is that right? This is wholesale to the salesman, not to the person who's going to get the piano.
I don't recall just how we did sell, how they were sold. That was wholesale, I think. Or retail, I don't know which it was. About 80% or more of all pianos sold were sold to mostly what they call operators. And they would put them in on a commission basis. I think that's what this finance plan you're looking at
Yes, that was
an operator's finance plan. And some operators would run as many as 200 or 300 pianos. And then later, when the pianos went out and the phonographs came in, they operated phonographs. And then still later, pinball machines and so forth.
Did you know the Allens over in Ithaca? The Allen
Yeah.
Music Company? I talked to Mrs. Allen a few years ago. She's quite an old lady now, but it's quite interesting. Can you tell us anything about this?
Hey, Autovox. Coin selected, yeah. The first patent I ever made was I designed the mechanism for this.
Was that a pneumatic mechanism?
No, purely mechanical. And what it had two stacks of 5 records each on 2 spindles. The spindles divided in the middle, and you could raise the spindles and slip the records in. And then you could select any one of the 10 records that were in it by push button around.
Well, was this successful?
Quite successful. They made quite a few of them. I don't know how many they made. Unfortunately, this was done just about before the 1929 crash came along. When the 1929 crash came along, the Link Piano Company went out of existence, and I went out looking for a job.
Yeah. Well, just the other, Mullen Transfer down here on, was it
There's
Water
no
Street?
Joe Mullen. He used to haul these things
Yeah.
all over.
Well, he's still around, of course, but the other day, Cy O'Neill called me up. You know Cy, he was an
Yeah.
attorney up at the plant. And he said, say, Harvey, says, I got something I found out in the street in front of Mullen's. He said, I don't know what it is. It looks interesting. It says Link on it. It's just a wreck, but if you want it, come and get it. So I went down here to Cy's house, and it turned out to be a cabinet for one of these. There was nothing in it, and someone had been using it as a clothes cabinet. It had a rod across it and a bunch of old rags in there. So we hauled it home, and underneath all of the dirt, the cabinet's pretty good, and I think I might make a piano roll cabinet out of it or something.
Well, that was the phonograph which we put on.
There's
That was, as I say, that's one of my first patents.
one thing that we've been very interested in is what happened between the time that the piano and the organ business went fluey, which I gathered was 1929 or
29, yeah.
What happened between then and the time that you started being successful with the trainers?
Well, I started the trainers about I started 26 with the trainers. So I was working on a trainer at the before the factory, organ factory, piano factory, folded up, and the first trainers were built there. That's how they come to have so many trainer and piano parts and organ parts. You know? It was 29 when it did fold. I was working on trainers then, mostly sort of a spare time thing like I do this, after hours and Saturdays and Sundays and things. Then when it folded, there was no more business. In the meantime, I had learned to fly and I had a commercial license. I had to go out and earn my living flying. And the trainer, then I started pushing the trainer. I guess it was a good thing for me the factory did fold, because I did better with trainers than I ever would have with pianos, I guess.
You know, when I was a kid, I remember one night, I don't know how old I was, we could date it by your experience here, but I remember hearing an airplane flying very low over Ithaca, which is my home.
With a siren on it?
I don't remember the siren, but I remember hearing an airplane, and at night, you know, when I was a kid, this is pretty unusual, because I was born in '24, and so I opened the window and looked out, and here was an airplane that must have been flying about 200 feet up, and on the bottom it said Spalding Bread.
Yeah, that was probably me.
And I know now that that was you. Now, when would that have been?
That would be about probably 1930.
Well, see, I would have been 6
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
And
So you'd remember it. Did you know how the lights would say Spalding's Bread and keep changing? I had a piano roll mechanism, and I'd punch in the proper lights that would light from a piano roll mechanism. I put a Venturi tube out in the slipstream of the airplane that created the vacuum, and it was really a player piano in the air.
neat.
Punch card program.
Yeah.
And then I would punch out the rolls for different messages according to the advertiser I got. It might have been energetic shoes. That was another one I used to advertise.
Well, I would gather this was no great commercial success. Is that true?
Well, I don't know. For 3 or 4 years, I did pretty good with it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
You own the plane, Mr. Rick?
Owned the plane, made the sign mechanism. Then I put one on a big tri-motor Ford and ran that for a long while.
Oh,
I had
well,
3 of them in all.
Yeah. What do you think about having the superhighway go over your old airport out here? Isn't that kind of disheartening?
Yeah, yeah,
You'd have a tough time making a forced landing there now, wouldn't you?
yeah. It couldn't do it now.
Well, was he towing a sign way in the back?
No, this is under the wing,
It was
wasn't it?
under
Oh.
the wing. It was electric lights.
Then you
It was
had to
made
do
with
this?
with a group of bulbs, and you punched out the rolls.
Hmm.
It would light the proper bulbs so it would make any letter in the alphabet, each one. So it would spell out Spalding's Bread and is the finest and different
I
things
see.
like that.
Come to
Well,
Tech.
You did this always at dusk in
Yeah.
order to have the
Dark,
lights
had to
seen.
be at dark, yeah.
Therefore, you had to have some ability to get off and get onto the ground in the dark.
Then another one I had, in order to attract attention, I put about a 10-note pipe organ in the air. And I had rolls on that. I had this on the tri-motor Ford, so it would play tunes from the air. I had a big wind-driven air compressor under the tri-motor Ford wind. It was quite a large air compressor. It would make a noise, you know, when those pipes would blow. You had to have them loud or nobody could hear it. So this was a flying pipe organ.
How about that?
Jeez.
Well, got to show you something I did. You know, there are 2 Fords still working out in Island Airways out of Port Clinton, Ohio.
Yeah.
And I took a ride on that a couple years ago. There's my souvenir ticket I show everybody. But
I used to fly one of those quite a bit. I don't know, maybe I got some pictures of it here, I'm not sure.
I understand they were a great airplane.
Yeah, they were good airplanes. They're still flying them, you know. So, I guess you recognize that.
Yeah, that's pretty horrible. I just soon you throw that one away.
You've given them a new copy, I hope, a new issue. That's what you call an experimental model, huh?
Those fish aren't turning blue because their motor's off, are they?
I think it's just getting the bad water. I thought I could put my hand right There's the
That's the stuff I borrowed. Yeah.
stuff you borrowed.
Let me take a glance at that if I may. Maybe.
That one's secret. You better send that back to government.
I don't think it's secret anymore.
Here's the.
That's just,
Oh yeah, that's the one where the operator controls the music with two L's.
Look at the size of the keyboard.
Yeah. Remember, I reproduced that in
well, that's the
CTT.
same idea. You see, they did this with the organ, and they did it with what they call the MP Junior piano, meaning motion picture piano.
Yeah. What was the motion picture senior? Was that a combination organ and piano? I've never
No, they had
found
either
out.
organ and a piano. I don't think they had both. But I don't know.
Did you people build those piano after yourself? Or buy the whole piano mechanism?
Well, that's the one that was in the shoulder funeral home.
Is
I
this
have a
Link?
piece of literature like that. I didn't realize you had that. I hadn't seen that before.
Where is the Schroeder? Is that?
That was eventually went to the American Legion home over here and eventually got scrapped. And I got the remains of it, and then I sold them to a guy, and I never got paid for them. Hey, there's some stuff I haven't seen before. The Link Canoe. Bud Simser has one of these.
There's the one.
Oh, yes. This one is,
MP Junior.
remember, this is reproduced in PPT.
Yes. All right. This is what I've got.
Now,
right?
this is what Murray has.
Except
There's Mayor Cook and C-sharp minor.
Is this minor on the left here?
Yeah, that's C-sharp minor. Here's C-sharp minor and out in California, and my father.
Is that your father?
No, my father
Oh, here.
here, and this is C-sharp minor.
Is that your mother?
No, I think that woman's name was Chambers, I don't know. Mead.
Oh, yes.
Some years later.
That was a canoe I put out.
Yeah, Bud Simser, who works with us up at Broom Tech, has one. In fact, he's got it set up in his garage right now.
What is this EPCO theater?
Did you ever hear of that? There's one too.
What is it? That organ there, which has that is not a Link, is it?
Where is that?
Right.
Here's the, yeah, that's Link, yeah.
What is the roll mechanism on top of it?
Well, we used to put a single roll mechanism so they could play other makes of rolls.
Oh, what?
Now, this is the one I reproduced. Did I give you a copy of
Yeah,
that?
you gave me a copy of it. I'd like to get another one though, because I want somebody else to have it.
Sure, I got plenty of them down there. Yeah, now see, that was in color, which accounts for the reason that some of that
I'll
wasn't.
tell you
too
what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you an original piece of Link literature.
How about that?
And I got a few extra copies of that. Blotters.
Yeah, did you notice that, Murray? This is a blotter.
oh, that's what it is. No, I didn't realize it was that.
Yeah, let's find the Ford thing. That isn't as important anyway.
Let me just cut this back, please. Let's see what we got.
Well, it's nevertheless very interesting to me, because I never heard of that
This is
before.
another one. I don't know if you've seen this
Oh,
one.
I haven't seen that one. No, sir. That was eventually went to the,
Well, the motion picture junior was just straight piano,
Straight piano with 4 roll mechanisms.
and the senior was an organ hooked in with it.
Well, they didn't have a senior. Then they'd make the organ with the 4 roll mechanism in it, with or without consonant.
Oh,
well, now they list an MP senior in the literature,
Do they?
because the rolls are cut for MP junior or MP senior. Isn't that right, Murray?
I don't remember the senior.
yes, it always states on your RX rolls in later years anyway. It says for MP junior and MP senior. But
I don't remember what the senior.
this photo player that I have has also got the stops for an organ. It's got about 15 stops, I'd say, buttons, stop tabs.
Oh, this is in a theater now, isn't it?
Now that's that portable one that's in Ithaca right now.
Portable. Oh, that's the one that's in the
The
state?
C-sharp minor had, and it was made up in about 10 cases. All these reinforced cases.
Oh, yeah. Now, who are these people? You know, they just workmen?
Just workmen, but I just wondered if I knew. I don't remember who they are.
Well, I can, see, that State Theater was built in 1928, and I can just remember as a youngster seeing the construction going on there.
Well, that was taken out of the cases, and that's the organ that's in the State Theater.
You know, they're making an effort to get that thing working now. A little work is going in on
Is
that
there?
particular instrument.
That's a second-hand organ. Put it there. It had traveled all over the country with C-sharp minor.
Did he have some kind of a road show or something that you could take?
That's what the road
portable?
show. That's what he had, was this organ with
Oh, it was portable, eh?
it. You know,
And how many manuals, right?
it was a 3-manual organ.
Oh, that's big.
It was about almost a duplicate of this one down here, but it was made portable. It was a real wild idea. It took 2 great big automobile cars to carry the thing around. 2 cars, railroad cars. They didn't use trucks very much then.
Did you,
There were tracks on here, you see.
oh, yes, right. Did you have many acquaintances among the other piano manufacturers like Marquette and Cremona and Seaberg and all these others?
I didn't very much know. But, my father did. I mostly worked in the factory.
Murray, he told us when he was out the house that the company never made the pianos, that these instruments were bought from the Hadorf Piano Company. Now, have I got that straight?
That's right.
And that piano that was in the
What they call the cases were made up there. That was just the back and the case. All the action was put in here.
What about the piano in the garage there? Now did you build all of that yourself?
Now that again was built by Hador.
Oh.
It was a case.
You mentioned when you were up at the house the instrument that you made experimentally for skating rinks.
Yeah.
Could you tell us any more about that? I didn't make any notes on that at the time.
Well, it was actually one of these big, I've forgotten what they call it, calliope things. And what they did was hook link rolls to a calliope. And so they'd make a lot of noise, for skating rink counts.
You made the calliope though.
We didn't make the calliope, no. We made the player mechanism for it.
You know
But
what?
we put it out, however. The Link Company put it out.
I think I gave that to you because I had a story in there at the time.
I believe you did.
I mentioned the fact that your son was enrolled at Cornell at the time I put that story in there.
Yeah.
What's the Rhode Island? May I see that?
I'm very much interested in the arrangement of the music for your instruments, both pianos and organs. Was all the arranging done by this Mr. Sabin?
No. There were 2 men that did most of the work. And one of them was, the one that did the organ work was mostly Bill Sabin. And he was also, used to play in Sousa's band. He was the first clarinet in Sousa's band.
Well, then he was an
And he
expert
made most of
musician.
the organ rolls, yeah. And the piano rolls were mostly made by Ray Dio, who only died a few years ago. He worked up to the plant for years. You may have known him.
I met him once up there.
Well, then the lively touch and music,
That's Ray Dio.
is that so?
Yeah.
Well, I'd heard tell somewhere that this Ray Dio or Sabin, one or the other, couldn't play the piano. One of the 2 men could play and the other couldn't. Now, is that sound,
Neither one of them really could play the piano when it came to playing.
is that so?
Sabin was a clarinetist, and he could, he just played a little bit, and Dio didn't play hardly at all.
But they interpreted
They know how to interpret the rolls.
on the drawing board.
And we did have some hand-played rolls. They're were recorded as hand-playing. Here's what I've been looking for.
Oh, they weren't made hand played then?
There's one of your Skyside.
How about that? Now, what is this, an old Curtis Robin?
No, a Fairchild.
And is this over in the field over here a few miles away?
I don't know, was that Bennett Field, or was that up at Cortland?
I don't know.
Jim, the students in the advertising course ought to know about that.
I don't know where that was.
Well, on the music roll business, when do I understand that your father took over the automatic musical company who was in bankruptcy or in arrears, or receivership or something? Is this the trend of events?
Yeah.
How your father came into the...
See, my grandfather's business was making the Shaft Brothers piano out in Huntington, Indiana. And they made the cases that the Link Company bought, or which was then called the Automatic Musical Company. And when the factory went bankrupt, the Automatic Musical Company, was 1910. My father took over the factory to try to get his money out of the thing. And he liked he did better with the player pianos than he did with the straight hand-played pianos. Found a better business. So he sold the factory out there and started in building here.
Now, was the Automatic Musical Company located on Shenango Street?
They're on Water Street, same place as the Link Company.
Oh, the same place?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, IBM started in that building. That was the Bundy time recorder building originally.
Do you know anything about early Automatic Musical Company products, like a violin playing machine they might have worked on at one time?
I don't know of any violin playing machine. I don't know what the Automatic Musical Company made too much.
Say, isn't this Hugh Smith, the president of American Airlines now?
No. No, Hugh Smith, CL.
Oh, yes. Smith rang a bell somewhere. No, I'm getting away from pianos here. I don't mean to sidetrack the discussion.
Well, and back to the music roll department. Did Deo and Sabin work the entire span from, say, 1910 to maybe 1928 producing music? And were they two of a staff of maybe 5 people that produced rolls? That is, the perforating and the mailing, the
They
packaging?
were really the chief two. And there was somebody else that used to work there part-time, and I don't know who it was. He used to come in and do some work. And then we did record some. We had some people come in and record, but Dio and Sabin did the editing of it and all afterwards.
I see.
And believe me, every recorded roll had to be edited.
Yes, I understand they do. Are you aware of the fact that musically these Link piano rolls are above average for music that was cut on the drawing board?
Well, we used to think so, and our
Well, it definitely
customers
is.
thought so at the time.
Yes.
That the Link rolls were better than our competitors,
Well,
and most of our customers thought so.
it hardly can be said that there's a poor Link roll. That is an arrangement. I have yet to come across one that is a poor arrangement. And
I don't know. They had better ones, of course. So there's some of them were better.
well, some were much better than
Like
others,
these
but
here,
I have a lot of Wurlitzer rolls that the music is very mediocre, and of course some of the earlier people like Peerless up in St. Johnsville, they turned out some mediocre mechanical music, you'd call it. But the Link stuff has an awful lot of life to it.
Well,
Zip.
they used to pride ourselves on having it. They thought they made a better roll.
Yes. Do you recollect where the paper was manufactured that was used?
No, I don't. I can't. It was made special for the rolls.
Yes.
No paper company used to make it. And
It's
that
not
was one of the big
obtainable.
problems is getting the proper kind of paper for it. Because the paper had to be, well, some of the paper would absorb moisture and it'd get as much as a 1/4 inch wider, and then it wouldn't match up with the tractor bar. And so this was a special paper that was made and treated.
You don't recollect from whence it came?
I haven't, no, I don't have the faintest idea. All I ever knew was come in by the carload.
By the carload?
Yeah.
What would be your, can you give us any information on the production of rolls? How many of these were produced? I mean, would they produce 100 rolls a day? Or?
Oh, no,
Yeah,
well,
give us any
yeah,
idea.
on duplicating, yes,
Yeah.
They had 2 cutting machines that were perforating, 3 perforating machines at one time. And they perforate, I forget, it was either 10 or 15 rolls at a time. And, well, they'd run through in about 2 hours, a whole roll. Perforated. The masters were on regular thick cardboard. See, I wished after that closed down there, they just tuck that stuff all out and burn it up.
I heard a man from the Fowler Piano Company say that they bought a whole mess of pianos for $5 each. And just ripped the mechanism out and sold them as straight pianos or something like that. Makes you sick to hear about it, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, that whole thing was just given away.
The,
All those rolls were just taken out.
well, now
Rooms full of them there, just burned up.
when the thing was a going concern, was the money in the pianos or in the rolls? Or both? Or did you have to carry the rolls at a loss to sell the pianos?
Well, so far as I know, neither one of them was running at a loss. It was always fairly profitable.
My brother spoke with your sister at a travel show in New York City about 2 years ago. She was representing Mohawk Airlines,
Yeah.
I believe. I don't know.
She still works with Mohawk Airlines.
And she and my brother had quite a long conversation in which your sister gave my brother to understand that after the Link Piano Company failed in 1929, that your father, mother, and your sister went to the West Coast
Yeah.
and lived,
Mm-hmm.
and she seemed to state that much of the income on which they lived was derived from nickels gained from
Yeah,
a circuit of pianos that your father owned or maintained. Now, is
on the
this
West Coast,
true?
that's right. Yeah.
How did your father come to own a chain of pianos out there? Having manu-
Well, I don't know. Just how he got into that.
But this is about the size of it, was
Yeah,
it?
that was about the size of it.
These were the hard times
Well,
of 29.
I know, yeah. He had to go to the West Coast on account of his health. He couldn't stand the winters here. And then I think he acquired some pianos that he operated.
Then your father had a very close working knowledge of these instruments, how they were put together and how to keep them running. He
Yes,
understood them
yeah.
as
But
well
he
as you.
didn't design them. That's the interesting part. He was not the designer of them. George Thayer was the backer of as far as the mechanical part of the piano and the design of it is concerned. Father was mainly a businessman.
Yes.
He would run the business part of it. George Thayer ran the plant. So I knew more about the plant because I was more interested in that than I was the business part. I didn't care where the nickels came from. I wanted to.
You wanted to be among the machinery and the gadgets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you a couple of aviation questions here. On the original trainer that you developed, so, you know, the famous blue box that was used in such quantities by the Air Forces, were all of these Was all this instrumentation basically your development, or did you have an engineering group that developed this?
No, originally all of it was my development. And then I gradually built up an engineering group. And of course, at the present time, I don't have anything to do with the development of the Link trainers at all. I'm
Well,
working on oceanographic things.
Well, I was thinking of such things as the dive tank and the climb tank and the stall pneumatic and all that stuff. Was this all of your basic
That was all
development?
mine, yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, certainly clever stuff.
Simulator with the type of silo that had a terrain and
Yeah.
rolled under it.
Yeah, that was all my idea.
Skip Forbes working on that.
Yeah.
Celestial navigation trainer, we call it.
Well, you know,
Skip Forbes, you know, Skip.
He
yeah.
works with that.
Yeah. He worked, he was one of the early design engineers that came with it, Skip was. He was very early. He was part of the first team when I started to build up an engineering department. Skip was one of the original men in it.
when would that have been? About 1932, 3, something like that?
I think more near, yes, about that, 35, that's more that when I started.
Well, I have personally about 10 hours of experience in one of the blue box trainers, and after about 10 hours I finally got so I could fly it straight and level. And that instrument flying is certainly not easy to learn. I suppose like everything else, when you learn when you know how, it's simple enough. Now I got another thing always was curious to me. Someone told me once that they wanted to do away with those stubby little wings, which really had no function. But you insisted that the thing was going to resemble an airplane.
Yeah, that's
Even
right.
to be covered with, have fabric on ribs and dope and everything. Is it true that you laid down the law that this will remain?
Yeah, I did, because I found there was a natural resistance about people wanting to learn to fly in a box. They didn't like the idea. If it just made them think it was an airplane, they enjoyed it better. So it was purely for psychology. It was the psychology of somebody getting in something that looked like an airplane and like a box. Well, of course, after the idea got established well enough, then we left the wings off. Then we left the things off, and, well, we still make them look a bit like an airplane outside, but not, we don't try to make it. No.
Of course, now they look more like an airplane than ever as far as the interior is
Yeah.
concerned.
And the interior, of course, you have to have always more like an airplane.
Now, there's another local story going around here. I've always wondered if there's really truth to it. Somebody told me once that when you were just getting started and didn't have much credit, that you're having trouble getting supplies, and one day a Glidden paint salesman came around, and you told him that you didn't know when you could pay his bill, but he said, well, pay us when you can, and you took the paint, and forever after, Glidden paint's the only kind you use for many years. Is there any truth to that story?
Well, it's got some truth, but not quite.
Well, see, these things get distorted.
It wasn't Glidden, it was Berry Brothers.
Okay, well, I'm not far off. Berry Brothers out in Detroit.
Out in Detroit, yeah. And for many, many years, I wouldn't let anybody buy anything except Berry's, because they gave me credit when I needed it.
Well, that's true of business in general. People remember these things
Yeah.
and stick.
For many years, I wouldn't let another can of paint be in our place when we could have. But they financed me when I was, or gave me credit when I needed it. So golly, when we got going, I wasn't going to let them be sorry for it.
Let me ask you an up-to-date question. How are the new BAC 111s working out? You're a director of Mohawk Airlines, and
They're working fine. I flew one here a few weeks ago. It's really a beautiful airplane.
is
As
it going to be
simple to fly as could be.
is it going to be a good moneymaker for the
I
corporation?
think so. It's a lovely, certainly a nice pilot's airplane. And the pilot's flying it. Flies beautifully. And it's a real nice airplane. Have you been in one yet?
No, one of these days I'll find an excuse to go somewhere in one.
British are slow on their delivery program. It's the only problem. We should have about 8 of them now. I guess we're just about to get our 5th. So the schedules and everything they were planning on are way behind.
approach right over the Kansas.
Yeah, we see, the 9:15 every morning, I stick my head out the window and watch it come in.
It's a nice thing.
Let's see, I had another question on the airline I was gonna ask. Oh, I know, do you still have your widgeon?
Yeah.
Do you fly it a lot yourself?
Yeah.
It is,
No, I flew it up to go fishing this summer. Flew it down Florida last winter, down and back.
great. Do you take it out on the sea diver with you?
I can, but I don't.
Well, we're getting away from these piano questions, Murray. What do you want to ask about that?
Well, what would you assume might have been the grand total of Link piano production while the company was in business from 1910 to 1928? When did it officially cease production of pianos? About 1928?
1929, I think the time of the crash was when it officially ceased.
Were you making pianos right up until that
Yeah,
point?
they had a good business right up until then. And one of the troubles was that they had so many pianos being sold on time that the customers couldn't pay, and they couldn't pay the people, and the result of it was it really put it on the bum.
It all followed right back to the Link Company, and when anybody lost, everybody lost. Is
Yeah.
that the idea?
Well, there were so many being sold by these operators are the ones that really, they bought their pianos on time and they couldn't pay, and they, of course, just chain reaction.
Yes.
That's the way everything was.
Yes.
Poker companies pulled it all over the
They have
place.
the boat clear up?
That's when I went out as a full-time aviator.
Clear.
Is that so? Well, you assume that the production of pianos, including perhaps orchestrions and cabinet styles, might have been 5 a week, about 1 a day for the working days, or maybe 6 a
Yeah,
week.
6 a week. They worked Saturdays.
I
6
see.
a week.
These were being built ahead of time and not on order. In other words, you might have 25 of these under construction at once, and the orders come in, so many go here, so many go there, and so forth. Did you have a number of women working in the valve and pneumatic department?
Yeah, there's one woman still alive that worked up there, and the interesting part about it, I opened one of those chests down there, and
Okay.
there was her name was in it. She had written that she'd covered by Jessie Wilmot, 1926.
Hmm.
And Jessie Wilmot is still alive. She's one of the few that I know. I don't know of anybody else who is alive. Worked on them back there.
Well, would one woman, for instance, be able to cover enough pneumatics to meet your supply?
And there must have been 30 or 40. There was about 100 people in the plant.
Oh, yes.
100 to 125, very.
But you take, in this pneumatic stack here, there are 65 pneumatics
Yeah.
in the stack itself. It's a 65-note piano, I believe. Well, a woman could cover 65 in a day if the pneumatics were made up for her.
I would presume so, yeah.
So, if the production of pianos was 1 a day, in that respect, one woman could theoretically cover enough of the small pneumatics, finger pneumatics. But then when you get into xylophone...
I used to
or
cover
those-
pneumatics and do those things as when I was a kid, come in for my summer vacations and work in the plant. Cover pneumatics, I went through the whole darn business of it.
You know it from
Made 'em
beginning to end.
one
Somebody,
end to the other.
somebody told me once that the wood for the pneumatics was soaked in hot shellac. Does that sound right?
No, they were soaked in hot glue though.
Hot glue, well, okay.
Did you ever take machines of other manufacturers in on trade?
They did, I don't know. I didn't spend much time on the business end of it at that time.
Did you ever buy a competitor's product and bring it in and dismantle it to get ideas?
I never remember of it.
I see.
We always felt we were ahead of the competitors.
Is that so?
Of course, that's what Mr. Wurlitzer told us too, you know. He
I
said
know, everybody thought that. I think we were though, really. I think you'll find, if you look through these pianos here, I think you'll find better engineering in that than you will on that. I don't know. I never looked at a Wurlitzer piano very much, frankly. any of the rest of it.
Well, they all have their weak points, and perhaps we collectors of today.
You probably know more about it than I do.
Well, we can compare this one to that one to that. They all have their weak points. It invariably works out that if they use the unit valve system, a valve block or a pneumatic and so forth, you have to literally destroy the thing to repair it.
That was the idea. We sold new ones.
Yes. Well,
Well, I
Wurlitzer
find
got into
that.
the same problem.
Yeah.
You had to literally destroy the valve or the pneumatic to get it off or to repair the valve. You had to
You
just
know,
about
a
destroy it.
piano that played real hard would wear out in a certain range, the pneumatics, but the rest of the pneumatics were not really bad, like the bass and so forth.
Yeah.
And the result of it was, instead of having to throw away the whole pneumatic action, you could replace the others and could get a lot more time. Now, this was worth a lot to the operators. The operators liked Link pianos quite a lot because they could stretch out the thing. On where they were made in one unit, they'd have to take the whole thing down. This way they could come in with a couple dozen pneumatics, screw them in there, those that were gone, and never even take the piano out.
Yes.
And
Keep it going.
Keep it going. So the operators liked this idea, and I think probably that the Link piano was more used by operators than most of the others. I don't know. I couldn't guarantee that statement. But I know every operator, I used to work with them, that some of these operators operated Wurlitzers and Seabergs and everything else. And mostly they'd get rid of those and slowly transfer over to Links because they could get more time out of them.
I see.
So that's what they used to tell me, and I...
Well, this one that I have that's running every summer very heavily during July and August, it probably makes as much as 40 plays in a day, 40 coins passed through in a day, 7 days a week average, has never been rebuilt except for the pneumatics on the xylophone. All the finger pneumatics are original, and we don't know by the serial numbers what year these things were made because we have no way of
If you
tracing.
take the pump out and look at the bottom underneath the pump, usually it's written in there when the piano was made.
In the valves?
On a
Under
Link
the
piano,
pump?
I mean, underneath the pump.
Oh,
We used to always write the date and time in there. And
Is
usually
that-
the fellow that assembled it. I looked in this one because I wanted to see if there was one that I put together or not, but it wasn't. You look, take the pump out.
Does this have a date on it?
No, there's no date except it's written in there underneath the pump. That was just the assembler's own idea of it.
I see. This is under the pump board
Yeah,
that the pump sets on.
yeah.
This
You'll find the date and the man that assembled its name there.
this man that I mentioned earlier that produced this accordion unit, he absolutely manufactured it from reeds and all, right to scratch. He was an operator in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and operated a lot of Wurlitzers and a lot of Links. His name was Kalman, K-A-H-L-M-A-N, Kalman. Charles Kalman.
Seems to me I remember him, I'm not sure.
He's a Lithuanian. He's a man 70-odd years of age now. And in one of his storage garage, he has either 13 or 16 of your Link pumps
Yeah.
lined right up. But he doesn't have 1 foot of the music. He doesn't have 1 lineal foot of music. But imagine 16 pumps. That means he smashed up 16 Link pianos.
Kept
When-
the pumps out.
Kept the pumps because he was going to make those pump the air out of reed organs. He was going to
First
electrify
Link
reed
trainers, we used those pumps, we used 2 of those pumps to run the first Link trainers.
organs. I just rebuilt the valve flaps on mine the other day. I've never had one
Well,
of
that
those.
one's never been touched in
Yeah.
there. It's working good, as you can see.
Yes.
And the leather on that is just as good. It'll run forever, I think.
I just put each foot all
That
over
was made
mine.
by EJ, by the way.
Was
That's
it?
EJ leather. Oh.
I went up to Bridgeport, Connecticut on a lead that Harvey gave me about 2 years ago to look at a Cremona, and the man that owned the Cremona piano had 2 others, which he'd smashed up the year before, and he smashed up one of them entirely, and the second one he saved the motor out of, and the coin box and the pump for some reason. Thought those were
Incidentally,
the
what
best
did this fellow think about operating? Did he give you any kind of operating with different kinds of pianos? Which one he liked the best?
Well, I have interviewed him several times. He leaned towards the Wurlitzer.
Did he?
Now, Why, I don't know, unless it was the roll changing mechanism. Are you familiar with that Ferris wheel type that took 6 rolls? He was quite strong with Wurlitzer, and he was so capable in this field of pneumatics and design and so forth that finally Wurlitzer came to him and wanted to hire him to come out to North Tonawanda to work in the designing department, because this man really had ideas. We find that some of the operators were quite skilled. They weren't just money makers, they were skilled men. This man is an accordion. He's an artisan. He produces accordions from leather, plastic. He absolutely makes everything except the basic materials. And so he had all manner of Wurlitzers and evidently all sizes of Link pianos, but stove those all up, saved just a few of your speed changers.
I wish I had that new, he had some speed changer to save me making one in there.
I'll send you one. I've got some.
Have you?
You mean the cone?
The cone, yeah.
I'll send you one.
That's what I built all that fancy mechanism in there for, is to get, because somebody
Wow.
took the cone, and that's what it originally had, but to reproduce that cone is quite a job.
Yeah.
So
All right,
I made a much simpler one there.
anything else you need?
No, that's all.
All right.
But I wished I could save myself about 2 days' work
Yes,
if
I
I'd
can
known
see
you had
that.
a cone.
Is that
Yeah.
wood turned on?
No,
It's brass.
Brass, there's one right in there.
Now,
But that's why I made up that one that you saw in that other
Yeah. As a
mechanism.
matter of fact, I think I've got one somewhere if I'd known that.
but check me if I'm wrong. On your 4-roll mechanism, you didn't use a cone.
No.
You used
Oh,
different gears of different
Yeah.
teeth, and it was a direct chain in there.
I think
This
we
one I
used
got
the
chain.
cone.
Mine is chain, sprocket driven, speed changer.
We had a speed changer in the thing. I think.
Spring-loaded chain, and you had 3 choices of speeds, and you had to stop the machine and set this thing up, and it had to go that way. And I think you used chain because of the friction of driving. Because of the friction of driving that vertical shaft, whereas when you put it in one of these,
You don't have that.
you
yeah.
just have one unit, one roll unit.
You know, he
I was
mentioned,
thinking we used the cone on that, but I guess we didn't do that.
I may have a couple of those. Would 2 of them help you out? Could you run 2 simultaneously?
No, maybe you're right. Maybe we didn't use any of it. Maybe what I made is better in there. It's a heavier duty drive.
Yes, there's no doubt about that.
And the
but you
cone,
have it.
those cones will slip off easily. They won't drive very much. But I was thinking we had the cone.
Yeah.
you know, Murray mentions the piano they have at the trading post that's similar to this one. I got that about 1955. I picked up the evening press one day, and in Tom Cawley's column he talked about some woman who had written him that she had a Link piano, and wasn't it too bad she was going to have to make a china cabinet out of it. Shouldn't this be preserved or something? And so I got a hold of Tom Cawley right away and said, "Who's got it?" And he referred me to this woman, and I went down into the Catskills, and it was a little old store down there, and I bought it. And I had a rather large car at the time, big station wagon. We were able to get that piano in my station wagon, that 51 Mercury, by taking off the window garnish moldings. It just fitted in.
Huh.
Oh,
And,
darn.
I think I had to take the top off, but it actually went in the back of the car. And I just brought it home and tinkered with it, and then later on swapped it to Murray, and he's put it to good commercial use ever since.
I never would get this piano out of this house unless I take it. Because when we rebuilt the kitchen, we cut out the doors. At the time we rebuilt it, I put the piano through then.
Oh, well,
Since then we built the doors back up and it won't go out.
now we saw
So if
this.
you ever get a chance to buy this one, remember it won't go out of the house.
Yeah. Now isn't this the one we looked at?
Martin
down in
Brink
Pennsylvania?
owned it, didn't he?
Down there, the
Yeah.
fellow that works up here to the Caterpillar, Kyle trailer place.
Down near Bertrandville, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we got 2 leads on Link pianos in the same day or same 2 days. So we went down to Bertrandville, looked at this, and then swung over to Great Bend and looked at the one there. That's the one I got from Great Bend is the one I have up the house that has the pipes in it. And Mr. Brink said he bought this with the idea of putting it in the game room someday, and he thought he'd never get around to doing it.
Do you remember a dealer down in Providence, Rhode Island, for Link organs and pianos? Forgot him.
Lockwood,
Lockwood.
M.J. Lockwood.
Yes, M.J.
Sure,
I-
I remember him very well.
Well, I bought
He got an operator. He had 300 Link pianos that he operated
down in Providence area.
around that area. That was a moneymaker down in
Guy ought to be able to get some instruments
there.
down
They were
there.
piled up there. Lockwood he was the biggest Link operator.
Is that right?
Well, you know, I met Lockwood a few years ago, and he was living in the Elks home down there, and he was full of stories. He liked to talk.
Is he still alive, do you know?
I don't know if he is now or not, but he told me about one machine, and we went out, and sure enough, it was there, but I couldn't buy it. But he told me about going down and he was telling me about selling them in the old days, and he told me about one place where we went and worked all day to sell his Link piano to a guy, and the barkeeper finally convinced him he should buy it, so Lockwood said, well, now what cycle electricity do you have here? The guy says, electricity? We haven't got any electricity here. And he looked around, sure enough, the place was all lit with gas lights.
No sale.
Then he told me about another time he went down and sold one to a house of prostitution down in Newport.
What did you say?
Yeah. Was that considered a good market?
The prostitutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, they sure were. They used to put a lot of it.
Yeah, he told me how he sold one to this one place down in Newport, and then he went back, the madam called him up about 2 weeks later, and she's mad at her because the piano wouldn't run. So
Plugged with money.
He went down there to see what the trouble was, and the reason it wouldn't run, it was so plugged with money, the coin shell was all jammed up.
That's happened. They've gone under when the fellows used to get the old ones back from places underneath the keys. The money would get there. It was always good for $5 or $10 when you pulled up the keys. The ones that came back for rebuilding, where the money. They used to put $half slots too on some of these.
Oh, yeah?
That was a lot of money then.
Boy, is that, yes,
Quarter slots were quite common.
is that so?
I never knew that.
No, I never. So
Well, they weren't all Nickelodeons
No.
by far, but can you a $half then was real.
Boy.
Why would they? What type of place to put a $half slot on? You might.
Oh, there were some real ritzy spots. I don't know what they were.
Poodle dog.
They, I know out in Chicago there was some real high grade. I guess they were sporting houses as they called them at the time, but boy, they were plush.
I asked a while ago what you thought maybe the grand total of Link pianos produced might have been in the era of 1910 to 29, which is a 19-year, almost a 20-year period. We'll say, well, your father owned the company.
Oh, I don't know. It's a little bit difficult to say. I know at one time they were producing 6 a week, 1 a day. They worked on that.
Did you have busy periods and slack periods of the year?
I never remember any slack periods.
I see.
Business. It was pretty darn steady. It was always, they were really.
In speaking with a fellow that cuts music for the Wurlitzer band organs, he worked in the Wurlitzer factory, and he said a lot of the local talent that worked there making pianos and organs for Wurlitzer, they were local farmers and so forth in the summertime, and they went in and worked for Wurlitzer in the wintertime. In other words, it was not a steady market. It fluctuated, just like the automobile industry turned out thousands one month, and then hundreds the next, and then thousands.
I don't ever remember that there. This was a very
A steady,
business.
steady.
We didn't have pickup help at all.
I see.
Wurlitzer may have had a different type of trade than the Link Company had.
Mr. Wurlitzer said that a severe blow to their business was Prohibition in January 1920.
They what?
Prohibition in January 1920 was a severe blow to their business.
Oh, it
What
was.
was it to Link to?
Yeah. Yeah. For a while, and then it picked up with the speakeasies again. Everybody was running speakeasies.
You remember the old Donnelly speakeasy here in town?
Yeah,
I,
piano, yeah.
There was one of those like that in it, and I missed it. I told a guy about it, and he came and snuck it in there out of me, away from me.
Oh,
What are some of the machines that you can remember that were local? You mentioned some of these in my house.
What?
What are some of the local Binghamton area places that had machines 20, 30 years ago of different kinds? Like you mentioned, there was a big Wurlitzer Piano Orchestra someplace. Like the one in my living room, you said there was one just like it.
Well, you had, that was the old Boston Candy Kitchen down on Court Street that had that big Wurlitzer in, like yours. I thought maybe you got it from there. That was down, Boston Candy Kitchen.
Well, I've been told that the Boston Candy Kitchen had a double Mills. Did they also have a Wurlitzer?
I think that, a lot of these places, they have them for a few years, then they get new one, because their customers like something different. I think they had a double Mills, they had a Link down there at one time, and they had this great big Wurlitzer. And I don't know. They were all over town. Out in Johnson City there was one that's still the same building there. It was a Greek candy store. And that had one.
Is that the Crystal Restaurant in Johnson City?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that had a double Mills in it.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to go along here because I promised a man I'd see him here early on some business, and I got to get washed up a little bit.
Good. Well, let's wind this thing up here.